Okay.
Hello.
Uh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Good morning.
Okay. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah. You have tackled on the fundamentals as well as the technical side of the market. But one thing to ask you touch less on the political condition of the country, right? Uh, I don't think I need to explain exactly where we are in terms of the political climate. The question is, can the market, okay, taking the fundamentals, taking the technicals, can the market rise with the existing political condition of the Philippines in general? You know the Duterte, Big BM
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Can we expect any movement based on those political climate, like the impeachment issues, etc.?
Very, very good question. So, any thoughts from our experts?
Well, I think part of that, sir, is part of that is the reason why the Philippines is being traded at a discount. Right? It's not. We could have been something closer to a Vietnam, something closer to a chart formation that was stronger, like whether it was a Nikkei, Hang Seng, but we're not. I mean, we're here because of such noise. Investors who put their money in the Philippines understand that very well, that that political noise comes along with the picture. And that's why they will always trade the Philippines at a discounted value. I don't think that you'll be able to come out and get full value for what the Philippines, unless one day they can fix that. Right? And the reason why we didn't make any comments towards political conditions is to tell you honestly, we don't know what the results are going to be. Um, uh, uh, I wish it were better, but this is our country, and we just have to deal with what we've known. We've lived like this for the longest time, and we just have to understand where are the opportunities in this type of environment. But my basic answer is don't expect us to trade at full value, precisely because of that risks that stem from that particular circus in town.
April, you want to add anything?
Yeah, on the re-rating side lang yan di ba? If I think we really could grow faster, you know? Kasi yun nga, one of the things that I look at is the survey data. And I mean, I guess if you watch the news, sinasabi rin that people are worried about what's going on politically. And they're equating it to the impact of government services. Because the politicians are so focused on these issues that they're not focused on serving the people. And diba yung issue nga, inflation. They've been talking about it again and again and again. So what is the government doing about it, diba? So if they had actually focused on that problem earlier, then maybe the economy would have grown faster. And then yun nga, the market could have gone up more substantially. Yun na nga, even in the surveys lumalabas yun. They're worried about what's going on in the government because it's affecting the services and it's making people more pessimistic.
Okay. I think we have more questions from our on-site audience. Sir? We have on the right.
Hi, good morning. I have two questions, one for Miss April and for Juanis. For Miss April, could you elaborate further on why the FDI somewhat became disappointing at this point compared to what we were anticipating last year? And for Sir Juanis, with the current technical set of price action of the index, for example, would you consider that in general, the market has already bottomed, and for active investors, for example, would it be wise to stick to the leaders as we anticipate possible rise in the stock market, or should we rotate as pullbacks happen with the leaders going to the second liners?
All right. April first on the FDIs.
Yeah. So for the FDIs, I think one of the reasons why it's down is because bulk of the 4 trillion, when I looked at the details, is renewable energy. So, interestingly, may nabasa akong column. Sabi, di ba kasi ngayon, you could own 100% of renewable energy companies, even if you're a foreign company. So they got really excited. They wanted to invest. And, it's a growth area, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is a lot of the foreigners, when they came in, they realized, oh, it's complicated. Di ba kasi solar, so you have to deal with LGUs. And then if you want to do solar, you have to get hectares and hectares of properties. Di ba, na land reform, etc., walang titulo, may ganun, ganyan. So it's so difficult. You have to talk to all these people and all the LGUs that you have to deal with. So parang I-realize na it's still very difficult. Yun yung nabasa ko sa column na sabi nila, it's not as easy as it seems. So baka ang mangyari is what they'll do is they'll wait for companies like CREIT who are really on the ground and doing all of the legwork, tapos bibili na lang nila. Kaysa yung sila mismo yung magtatrabaho. Yun ang realization. Kasi, yeah, I guess, that's one of the things that the government has to address. It's not just, you give us a good law from the top, but yung on the ground, yung mga LGUs, kailangan ayusin natin para ease of doing business talaga.
So more the execution part.
Yeah,
no?
execution is difficult, I think. Yeah.
But maybe the global uncertainty, did it also impact?
I think maybe for manufacturing. But bulk of the 4 trillion, I think, is renewables.
I see.
So yun yung naging issue, yung execution pala mahirap pagka tinabaho na nila.
Okay. All right. Sir Juanis, on the bottoming out and leaders, could we stick with the leaders?
Okay, so with regard to the question, has the market bottomed out already? I guess the direct answer is no. And the reason is because, like I pointed out, we're still in a big range until we punch out over 7.576. That's the only official time we actually have a bottom made, right? So we are in a bottoming out situation. I mean, that's about all I can promise you right now, right? So if I were to give a rating, I would say 80% this is probably a low already. But I can't officially cast that unless we break the range. Your second question is in regards of rotation and whether I should stick with the primary leaders or the big caps or which issues were strong and do I wait for them to pull back. So in fact, all your suggestions are actually correct. I will wait for them to pull back, so I won't be buying them at current prices, right? But in the meantime, as I take my position out from those, and while I'm waiting for a better setup for those mainline issues, I will look for second potentials, whether they're in a index-based situation or whether they're a second liner. The only caveat I like to make sure you understand is please be very careful about illiquid stocks, especially if you're going to the second, third liner areas. Remember, in a market that is devoid of strong trends, you can have, you could look like a stock going up. You'll see in your top traded issues, wow, up 20, 30% for the day. You might end up buying that only to find out that it trades 50 to 100,000 pesos the whole day, right? And you buy the 100,000, you can't sell it tomorrow, right? So be careful about illiquid stocks. If you're going to be picking issues, there has to be good daily volumes, right? Do not venture into something that's extremely dry because you can get stuck there for a very long time, okay? And remember, if you see a run-up and you're questioning yourself and you're saying, ano ba, pwede pa ba? Right? You're saying you're trying to get that extra inch, wag mo na habulin. Just wait. The market will not run away from you. Okay, you will have a time to buy it at a better price. So don't put yourself at an arm leg distance away from that support. That might be quite risky at this time. So rotate, but just do so with two open eyes, okay, so that you know. You can buy primary issues when they pull back, that's fine. You can also buy second liners that are bottoming, and you can switch from that. And that'd be the opportunity in a range trade situation.
Okay. Yeah, one more question from this. Yeah.
Thank you, April and Juanis. I have two questions, and you can answer, either of you. what are the current challenges facing the equity brokerage industry? And how are brokers leading the charge when it comes to regulatory reform? Also, how might the PDEX-PSE integration support this effort? And do we have an indicative timeline for implementation? Thank you.
Okay.
Anything you'd like to take?
Will our investor take this? I mean, I can answer after if you want. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah. Sa akin lang on the challenges, of course, one of the major challenge that we face is the downward pressure on commissions and very low trading volumes. Hopefully, the CMEPA will change that. But anyway, given the volumes that we had last year, 5-6 billion a day, and then there's pressure on the commissions to go down, it's hard to be profitable. Halos lahat ng brokers lugi ngayon. So, yan yung, I think that's the biggest issue facing us, no? And then for the others, I think Juanis, you'd be more familiar with the other things.
Okay, so I guess with the implementation, some of the changes that's taking place inside, I mean, I wish that, of course, that people who create such new policies and regulations are very aware of what is doable and what is not, right? Because sometimes they implement rules, new regulations, and I understand why, because they're either trying to make the industry more secure, or, a lot of scams nowadays, they're trying to be able to tighten things to make sure that things are dealt with better safety. But remember, at the other end of this is it kills the desire for people to continue when things are just too hard to do. I mean, I remember the days where account opening was so simple. Now it's not, right? You have to ask so many things from customers to open, right? And you just have to explain to them why it's necessary. When they implement things like short selling, and for example, even this new PERA that comes in, you don't see what has to be done on the back end in order for that to happen. Right? So, yes, in picture, ang ganda, it looks perspective, it's all there. But now, how do you implement? And whether the people actually go, because it's so tough to implement. Right? And so it's hard to engage these new changes and make them more viable to everybody. So, you know, it becomes more fluid, becomes more dynamic and welcoming to investors rather than, wow, ang daming gagawin. Sige, hindi ko na gagawin. And I guess that's a big challenge. So aside from what April said, I mean, of course, you have much more dynamic commission rates now, but now these new changes are coming with a lot more regulation, with a lot more structures, with a lot more rules. It's very tough to be able to implement. So it's becoming very, very difficult, right? A few years ago, I attended a symposium in Hong Kong. I met two Indians from Citibank then, and they came and they asked if they could come to the Philippines to be able to see what they can do here. I said, why would you want to come here? You got billions of people in India, and why are you looking at the Philippines? I'm just so curious. Oh, in India, we can't do anything. I said, what do you mean? You can't scratch your nose in India. You can't? They said, no. Security is so tight, regulations are just all over the place. You cannot do anything there anymore. So that's why we're going to visit you. So it told me two things. I said, one day we're going to get there. But at that time, it felt maybe we're just too loose. So I think it was a combination of both that's necessary in order to get something into it. But I really wish that they take the mindset of the investor so that they can see what it's like for them. Is it going to be simple enough for them to be able to execute so that everybody can participate and not just those who know how to do it or have enough money or are willing to be able to fill out 10, 20 forms before they can start something. And I really wish that we can go in that direction because it'll make things a lot more fluid and dynamic for everybody together. Right? So earlier you said with the integration of PDEX, I mean, will that help? I think having more products will help, right? The difficulty we will have is how do you get more salespeople to sell those products? Now you're going to take so many tests to be able to do that and get yourself accredited. It's not easy to produce an agent now. It takes such a long time, right? And educating these guys to get to a level to be able to talk to you is a struggle what brokers have. And that's why it's very tough to have salespeople come aboard right now. So So these are some of the challenges that you guys don't see that we have to impart. But anyway, I hope that with the relationship that we try to build with regulators and try to show them these things that they can learn from it. But that's why the adoption rates are very slow.
Okay. Next question, we'll take one on Slido. Okay. Will the passing of CMEPA bring more volatility? So this is, I guess, with the reduction in stock tax from 0.6 to 0.1. Yeah. Could you comment?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Kasi nga, di ba, in the past, you have to compute pa the stock transaction tax since it's 0.6. You have to earn more, or potential upside of the share price has to be more before you make money. But now with the 0.1 stock transaction tax, you don't need to, I mean, the price doesn't have to go up as much for you to make money.
So what is, will it change some of the trading strategies here in the Philippines given the lower transaction cost?
Well, ideally, it's supposed to incentivize better trading, right? Because since, like April said, you can now make money when you buy and sell at a much narrower price range. I mean, it's supposed to help, and the idea is, will it improve the volumes given that context? Maybe over time, yes, because what has not changed is where we are today and the headwinds we talked about the entire day today that still have to be reckoned with. But I think down the road, yes, these implementations will help a lot. And I mean, kudos to them for putting these things up inside because it makes it more affordable for investors nowadays. But there are a lot more structural things that have to be fixed in order for that. And of course, the headwinds that we have to deal with. So not immediately.
All right. Next question from Slido also. Could we show the next question, please? I want to ask about the proposed changes in the PSE index criteria. When will this be implemented, and is this a catalyst for AP? From Ken.
Okay. Proposed changes. I think one of them is to reduce the
Float requirement?
float requirement. If you're north of 120 billion pesos in market cap, it will be down to 15%. And so that would, if that is adopted, that would allow AP to be added because AP's issue is the free float is no longer 20%, it's 19 plus. And they're also doing that to make it more attractive for GCash to list. Because GCash, remember, the valuation is, I think the target valuation is $8 billion. So
Big.
yeah, really big. So if it's a 20% requirement, so it's laki nun na, di ba?
Yeah.
Baka hindi kayanin ng market. So I think that's the issue. And then the next one is value turnover, the liquidity. I don't know the specifics of the computation, but if they were that strict on the value turnover, matatanggal si China Bank and San Miguel, which is why, you know, those, well, at least China Bank was sold down because of that. But when will this be implemented? I don't know, but maybe not soon, because if you saw I think there was an article in Billionario that said how several people sent in their comments and criticized the criteria that was, you know, set by the PSE. So maybe they will have to go back to the drawing board and, you know, review this, you know, the criterias better. Kasi, okay, one thing is, for example, making it a static 120 billion. What about 5 years, 10 years from now? Is 120 billion still a large enough market cap? And what about if, say, a very active third liner issue goes up in value, then, you know, trades actively for several months, etc. Tapos biglang, pwede na bang isama na lang sa index yan? Tapos biglang, no interest. Diba? May mga ganong issues. So, I think there were many things that were raised. And probably, yeah, they would have to go back to the drawing board to come out with something a little bit better.
Okay. Do we have next question on-site, or maybe one more Slido and then one last on-site. I think we don't have a lot of time remaining. So one more Slido question, please. In what sector should I focus in the next 6 months or beyond? From Romel. So quick answers na lang so we can get at least one last question from the floor.
Sector, yeah, I like consumer. Remember before, di ba, consumer talaga yan. Remember, Charles, before pandemic, di ba, consumers, like, they can do no wrong. Di ba? Before, that was before. And who knows? I mean, that's the most resilient sector. REITs, well, as long as interest rates stay low, REITs will do fine. Yeah.
Okay. Juanis?
I think that's more of a fundamental question because even on mine, I see sectors change, so and the tides change quite in the short term. So it's very hard for me to pick that off for a longer term. But I guess 6 months, I think you'll probably see selective. Yes, consumer, maybe a little bit on the power, but only for trading.
All right. So harder to give for like 6 months.
Oh, yeah, they switch.
Okay. Maybe last question from the floor. Hard for me to see. Any? Okay.
There you go.
Hello. Yeah, you mentioned consumer as a sector, right? I think that's very clear from both of you. What about the threat of the online shopping, Shopee, Lazada, to the local consumer? I think generally on the consumer market trends worldwide or even the Philippines.
Well, actually, that's interesting. It's more of, I would say, on the retailer side, rather than, let's say, if I'm a URC, mas hindi sila tinatamaan eh. Or in the groceries, mas hindi. Yeah, that's more of a retailer problem, but it's true. This online shopping is affecting them, and in some ways also, they have an unfair advantage because they don't, I don't know if the government is able to collect on the taxes, but they don't have to deal with the VAT and the, and other taxes that those that are in the malls have to deal with. So yeah, I mean, if you want to avoid being affected by that trend, then maybe focus should be more on the defensive type of consumers. Like yun na nga, the mga products oriented like consumer necessities, no?
Manufacturing.
Manufacturing, URC, Monde, no? CNPF, yeah.
Although I think, yeah, I mean, when we talked to RCR recently, right, they said that, like when it comes to, like, for example, the malls, right, which is also should be affected, but they said, because I think for Filipinos, I'm sure everyone would agree, right? I mean, going to the malls is not just about like buying stuff, right? It's a lifestyle for us. Like it's part of who we are, right? And maybe because of the hot weather, right? So we just rather go to the mall, and even if we don't really need to buy anything, and then if we happen to see something, then okay, why not just buy it already here? So there's some mitigating factors, I guess. I mean, we've seen these questions asked for like a long time na in the Philippines from foreign investors, because in other countries nga, it's more apparent. But in the Philippines, at least we have that mitigating factor that we really like to go to the malls. It's an experience for us, rather than, I'm sure you also like online shopping, but maybe.
Actually, I mean, even if you look at the States, people still go to the shops eh. Kasi, yeah, you can buy online, but you're not sure of the quality. Happy medium where you do some online and you do some physical, no?
Alright.
Meron din eh. And even the study showed, even the young kids, they will also do, yeah.
Okay, so at this point, we're almost out of time. So I'll quickly ask for closing remarks, closing thoughts from our experts. April, you want to start?
Okay, so again, there are a lot of threats, but then again, there are pockets of opportunities that we can capitalize on. Yun na nga, one of the trends that we're seeing is continuous drop in inflation, which should boost consumer spending, benefiting a lot of consumer companies, and looks like interest rates are still headed down, which should benefit, say, smaller banks and mga REITs, and it could create trading opportunities for property companies.
Sir Juanis?
So I agree. It'll be, I think right now it really would be pockets of opportunities, as April said, that we're probably going to be looking out or scouting out for. We're not in a broad-based market advance yet, so you really have to be a very good stock picker to be able to participate in these opportunities that you see. For those who are participating, I think we have just a major learning lesson in one stock, and try to understand that, remember, market has risk. And the only reason why you'll be crying all the way down to the floor is only because you have not avidly protected yourself in the trades that you make. So in understanding the composition when you're trading, I'm not talking about long-term investing, but when you're trading, understand that you're buying something, you should identify what your potential downside is. If that thing is broken, then you should be out, right? And you won't have to be asking the questions way, way much lower later. So remember, don't fall in love with a stock, right? Because it cannot love you back. You make logical sense out of this investment and it'll be fine with you, right? And then you can just look for the next opportunity when you have it. And as I said, in our market, you're not going to run away. So if you see streaks like this, take advantage, lighten your position, then look for an opportunity to buy back, or like I told the gentleman, look to rotate it in the opportunities that you will see later. And that's what all market will be like until one day we can break above 7.5.
All right. On my end, I just like to share my key takeaways for today. So first one, I guess the overall message for today is stay patient. No? So we're still stuck in a large range due to both fundamental and technical factors, right? So we've seen there's a lot of positive developments, you know. So parang we're ripe for a re-rating or for an increase, but there's still some headwinds, no, both technically and fundamentally, right? So we have to stay patient, don't chase prices, as Sir Juanis mentioned, and we have to be more selective, right? But at the same time, opportunities remain. So I guess this is the more important part, no? So it's a stock picker's market. Even if the index doesn't go up, there's still a lot of opportunities. April mentioned that we look at valuations, strong earnings growth, and even high dividends, that could be the recipe for outperformance in the coming months. No? So we have to be very selective when we choose our stocks. And lastly, also on the technical side, there are initial signs of a wider rally seen, especially if we break around the 6.6 level, the immediate resistance. So a lot of So there's potential for markets to go significantly higher, maybe to 7.5 to 7.7. But yeah, stay patient and continue to look for opportunities in the short term. All right? So I think that's it from us.